IVM.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
Good day, listeners. Good evening, and hello, Ayushi Bunny.
Hi, good morning. This is another early morning recording session, but I am so psyched for this episode. I feel like I've waited for this episode for 2 seasons now.
Yes.
This is actually a gift to ourselves.
It is. And to all our friends who are interested in the topic.
Just to give you some background. So obviously from the title and everything, you can tell where this is going today. But we, as a group of girlfriends, Tash and I are on some chats where every couple weeks, like every, I think 2 or 3 weeks or maybe a month and a half, we launch into like a day-long skincare routine chat where everyone's like, so guys, what are we using right now? Like, what's everyone using? And then it becomes an exchange of, oh, I tried this. Now I'm doing this. I do a little bit of this in the morning. Now I've started retinol finally. Oh, I'm on Trent. And the conversation obviously.
Ayushi and Ria, our friend, and Ananya, who you listeners have probably heard by now.
Heard already.
So it's Ayushi and Ananya who actually lead this conversation. And I'm kind of interested, but also kind of like don't have the bandwidth to ever go through so many steps. So you all are going to get an interesting mix of skincare approaches today. Some very structured, methodical ones and my free-flowing ones.
But the funny thing is, no matter how much we've talked about it in the last couple of months, however, I have completely stripped down my routine to like it's nothing. It's 2 things in the morning and it's 2 things in the evening. Earlier, I used to have all sorts of like bottles of this serum, this oil, this, and I was like, this is not, this is just, it's exhausting.
It is time consuming. It is space consuming. Yeah.
Space, and then, like every, I was just saying like with everything, I think my main aim in general is that things are so confusing with skincare that it was very important point of personal inquiry to actually speak to a qualified dermatologist and to get an expert opinion on what we're up to. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Puneet Saraogi to the show. Woo!
Hey, clap. Hello, Dr. Saab. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
I'm
so happy you all had a morning recording session because, I am the one generally asking for these abnormal times. Can we start at 7? Can we start at 8 in the morning? And when I got that mail, I'm like, perfect. And someone from my team actually wrote back and came into my room and asked me, you're again asking for something in the early morning. I don't think they'll allow. And I said, they are asking for an early morning and I'm absolutely okay with it.
I'm so glad it worked out this way.
Yeah, perfect.
We actually do a fair amount of morning sessions because it gets us up and out of the way. And so then you don't have to worry about it at the end of all.
Yeah, it's much harder to record at like 7:30 p.m. when you've had a full day already.
Usually you're just sad. Usually you're just sad at the end of the day because it's been a shit day.
I understand that totally, yeah.
But welcome to the show. And do you wish that can we call you Puneet? Is that that's just easier?
You can call me Puneet, yes.
Okay, so Puneet, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Dr. Puneet Saraogi. I'm based out of Juhu, Mumbai, and I've been a dermatologist, I think, all my life. And I've been practicing for around 15 years now as a dermatologist for 11 years. And I couldn't have been anything else, I feel. I think it just completely suits me what I do. So even when I'm doing anything, my dermatologist hat is always on. If I go to a movie, I can't do without seeing things on faces. If I'm at an event, if I'm looking at someone, even with their mask on, I can't miss what's happening on their face, what the skin is doing. Obviously, I'm not very vocal about it. I know what to speak and what not to. But then, I think it fits me perfectly well. And anyone who's met me kind of knows that I'm extremely passionate about it. And what's happening, and it's changing so fast. Last 10 years, I've seen that how skincare used to be, like what Ayushi just said, from a very complicated regime to a minimalistic routine, which is happening right now. And again, we'll go back to some other jargon and all of that. I think it's the best time to be in the skincare industry because it's evolving so rapidly. And primarily, I do everything about skin. That's why my clinic is called as Everything Skin and Hair. A lot of skincare is cosmetic. It's aesthetic, what you look at. And it talks about aspirational beauty. This is the way you should be. This is how your cheekbone should be, how your nose should be. But a lot of skin is also functional. There are so many skin diseases we get which put us at unease, itching, and psoriasis and other stuff, and severe dandruff, etc. So it's like a big spectrum between clinical as well as cosmetic. And obviously, it's a visual field. So kind of hit a balance there. And one of my approaches is to ask you that, okay, what is it that your skincare should be? What is your goal? How do we reach that goal? What is the budget that you have to reach that goal? So it's not that this is the best product. Is it best for your lifestyle? Is it best for your pocket right now? So yeah, it has to be customized. It has to be something, it should not just be that hope in a jar. You bought this product because it says something. It looks nice, but then obviously it fails to deliver. So yeah, that's, I think, my mantra.
Also, I hope everyone is watching this one on video, because if you look at Puneet, he does not look his age. I'm not even going to say his age, but his skin is...
This is a guessing game for our listeners. When
Please
the episode
guess.
releases, guess Puneet's age because you'll be shook.
Yes, because when I also saw your picture, I was like, he seems very young. Like
I look older. I have thought I am older. That's the joke of this. When I've joined the call, I've seen Puneet. I was like, ये तो बहुत ही young दिख रहे यार.
Yeah. I was like, how much skin could he have potentially seen? But then when I got into it, I was like, okay, his skincare works. But let's kind of just dive right in. One topic which, and we'll get to, your journey as a doctor, as an adult. Like, as you said, you've given us enough background to say that you've always been interested in this. So it's kind of clear that you were meant to do this for yourself. Just in terms of more recently, I'm sure you've seen it, you're on social media. There is just an influx of skincare influencers, skincare suggestions, even dermats. Like, obviously there's the qualified TikToker, reel maker, Instagram people. And then there's just this range of people who are just going out there telling you that you need to use this, you need to try this. And I think even for a person like me who's educated and smart enough to know that I'm being tricked, or like I'm susceptible to marketing and stuff like that, I myself find myself scrolling through. I'm like, oh, I should find this product. I should see it. And I think I don't understand, like, how do you feel about this? Has it done damage, or do you think that it's actually opening up the conversation around skincare, which we don't usually do in India so much? Or like, how do you feel about it?
No, I think the market right now is extremely unorganized. While I'm extremely happy that people are so aware, they're taking enthusiasm in their skincare and they're looking at it as a long-term point of view. At the same time, it's also damaging because every day there is a product being introduced, or like probably 1,000 products being introduced. Yeah. And everyone sounds more promising than the other. So how is it that you get into a long-term skincare routine? Skincare is not about, this is in trend right now. This is it. It's the basic molecules we've been prescribing for years now. So retinol, everyone knows now, but dermatologists have been using retinol and tretinoin for donkey years now. So now people are talking about it, I remember a time when I joined, when I was still doing my MBBS, and the ads that used to come on skincare products, they were very basic, get younger, get fairer, get better skin. No one spoke about technicalities. Then the marketing team kind of started deciding, okay, let's talk about pigmentation. So all this jargon actually comes through marketing. The consumers don't sit and read about it initially. So some ads spoke about pigmentation and introduced it to customers and clients that, okay, there's pigmentation and our product works against pigmentation. And then there was a team which built a lot of products. Then they introduced, okay, what our product has retinol, and it started educating people. So I'm glad at least the marketing is evolving in the right way, where they are now making the consumer educated about what's there in the product rather than just the end benefit. Okay, you use this and you will transform, or you will completely change. So the education bit is really good, but yeah, it is to each one of us to kind of know where to get the information from. So, this is a very common thing when you listen to a YouTuber. They're telling you their experience rather.
Yeah.
And your decision of using a product or doing a treatment should not depend on one person's perspective. there's so much to it, what product was used, how that person's lifestyle is, skincare is, how that person is in general, in which city that person is. So it should not be. You can get a general feel and idea and see, okay, the whole journey through what they went through, but it should not be based on that. It should be more educational. It should be more scientific. It should be numbers. Okay, 90 people out of 100 kind of saw good results. That kind of thing. You know how we do with reviews? We see which has maximum review.
Exactly.
And we kind of go through the best and the worst ones and then kind of decide. So I think it should be that. It should not be on one person's perspective.
Right.
Also, I feel like a huge thing that's happened is, and I don't know whether this is the same for both your news feeds, but my general Instagram feed shows me a lot more international skincare people than it does Indian people. And I think that also really skews our understanding of our skin, because skin is also something that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's so subcontinental based. Like our skin, our weather, our kind of diet, our the pollution in
so
the air.
So many factors contribute, and our entire environment is different. So
I don't even think somebody who lives in Delhi should have the same skincare as me who lives in Bombay, because look at the temperature difference that you're dealing with. Like, I even think things like, oh, do you work out indoors or do you work out outdoors? I've recently been struggling with this outdoor-indoor thing, and I was like, none of what I was using earlier makes any sense, because this is just causing me more grief than anything else. So you're right that you should definitely go to a professional and seek out the right advice. But what do you think is kind of like the basic stuff that, say, specifically you guys see as Indian skin struggles, like something that we all generally kind of struggle with, that you would say is something that can be either course corrected or that's just our nature or our country's like situation?
So I think what you said is absolutely true. Skincare keeps changing. In fact, even within Bombay, for example, right now, if I'm in the air-conditioned office, the whole day, my skin is behaving differently. When I go for an outdoor run in the morning, it's behaving differently. So rather than having a product for a season, I encourage my patients, my clients to kind of understand their skin. So I tell them have 2 set of products, and which one works when, even for your hair care. So kind of understand and go around it. I can't tell you sitting here and how your skin is going to feel tomorrow morning. So if you start understanding your products and that, okay, I have to play between these kind of products and pick and choose, that's what it is. So a good skincare, or someone if is guiding you to skincare, should be through this, that how to pick and choose your products depending on seasons and requirements. The 2 biggest issues I think in India, one is that we are not so keen on putting too many layers on the skin. While there is a very very niche segment which wants to do the 10-step routine or probably a 15-step crazy routine. But majorly studies still show that we don't even put 1 layer when we step out in the morning, as opposed to many countries which put average 3 layers or 4 layers when they step out. So getting into a basic skincare routine is something which still people don't look at, is that it is necessary. And we should encourage our children to start that early on, that whole thing. Like when I'm very happy now that moms get their youngsters, doc, I want to start something before they start experimenting with their skin. They should know. And this was not happening until the last 3 years ago, they were not so accepting. They used to feel that, no, don't do any skincare till you are much older. And the child will experiment, and they have access to Instagram. They have access to products. They have that disposable money to buy things, and they do so much on skincare. So why not get them onto good skincare? So first is good skincare. And second is, I think in terms of our diet, generally as a nation, we use a lot of high glycemic foods. There's a lot of carbs in our diet, a lot of simple sugars, maida, white rice, and the whole macros are never balanced. And there are so many general health issues and general skin issues which stem from all of that. So I think correcting our nutrition, getting that concept right, and having a concept of basic skincare, these 2 needs to be in place.
So, that's so funny that you say like basic skincare. And sorry, Tash, if you're trying to say something, but I'm like, now I'm thinking.
I'm not. I'm listening and learning, because I honestly just need to know what y'all are discussing.
No, I mean, I completely agree with what Puneet is saying. But I think it's what was really interesting to me, and even what Ananya and I discussed a couple of months ago, was that when we were kids, like now, see, both of us are 28, 29, right? Like we are just on that cusp of 30. So we were in school in the 2000s leading up to 2010. Like that, like we were the millennial batch. For 10 years, we were in school. we went to a very good school, but we did not have air conditioning. We used to do PE, means you went, changed, got back into the same clothes right after you were sweaty. You didn't really get a lot of time to take showers at school. Like it was abnormal.
There were no showers.
No, it's only if you did a sport in the morning for the school that you were allowed to, that you took a shower or something like that. It was rare. Even when you went somewhere on camp or stuff like that, you packed a little kit with like toothpaste, toothbrush, and like body lotion to make sure that your skin wasn't dry at max. And I'm saying by and large, we turned out okay. Like it wasn't so crazy. We didn't realize that you have to use 3 fingers of sunscreen every day. We didn't, wash our face like 4 or 5 times in a day, or like use the blotting paper to get the oil out, or you used simple stuff. Like your mom got you like maybe a Himalaya face wash and an aloe vera gel for the summer to cool you down, and here, live your life.
Yeah, basic.
It was very basic. It was very basic. And I still think it was okay. Now as a 20-something older person, I'm like, I give a shit about the money that I'm spending. I care about what I'm putting on my face because I have vanity. It's really just vanity about like, I want to make sure that my skin looks good.
Because I want to look young for longer.
Yeah. And I think the cool part now is that a natural look is very good. Like if you have good skin, you should show it off. Like that's the new trend. But do you sometimes feel like the pressure that the younger kids now are under to have flawless skin, to not have acne, to get it treated immediately is so much higher? Because you see, when you go to a dermatologist now, that the patient load is younger and younger and younger. And you're like, when I got a pimple, I just accepted that it's around my period. I'm probably going to break out, or it's summer and I'm going to break out, or it's like, it's so greasy and humid right now, I'm going to break out.
Yeah.
That shift, do you think it's done a little more damage than harm because we've become so obsessed, like to make sure that we're looking flawless? And that I just feel like when we were kids, it was so easy.
So, I think it's a spectrum, and everyone who's on their skincare journey, you need to be comfortable with the skin that you are in,
Yeah.
So I know it's a very cliche, but if you feel having a set of acne is something that brings you down, it kind of, you don't go about your day well, and having treated them, you would be happier, then definitely that's the right time to start. Medically, if your any skin concern leaves more long-term sequelae, like if your acne is leaving scars, which you then struggle with all your life, and that's what I see all the time. So people who have pits and pores in their skin, they got them as a teenager when they got acne, didn't take care, probably picked on the acne, and just waited too long enough to treat the acne to now suffer scars. And then you're doing everything in the world in terms of treatments just to reduce those scars. One can't get rid of them completely. So if you were blessed with good skin, great, you've kind of not had to experience any of this. But a lot of these childhood issues may create scars later. So definitely should be treated. The age of puberty is changing now. Girls are starting maturing earlier and earlier. It's no longer 14, 15. So hair removal starts earlier. And all of this starts a lot earlier. 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds are shaving and waxing sometimes. So, the whole spectrum is kind of changing because puberty is hitting earlier. So it's best to do actually things in a more scientific manner. And again, more from a long-term perspective. Like say sun exposure, you will not get some damage over 10 days of not using sunscreen, over a year not using sunscreen, but it's cumulative. When you are in the sun, in and out over years, and this you will notice over 10 years, and there are enough studies to prove that. So I tell my patients that if you're using sunscreen now, you will thank your skin 5 years from now, not today. So they keep asking, nothing happens. I didn't use sunscreen for the last so many years. What will happen now? But it's a more cumulative, do good kind of a thing in the long run. So
for sure.
Sunscreen, though, I feel like at the end of the day, now sunscreen has become that golden product of skincare.
It's so funny. Sunscreen to me, most of us was associated with summer holiday.
With swimming.
As someone who used to swim, sunscreen was in my bag all the time because after school at 3:00 in the afternoon, you were in the pool for an hour and a half. So you had to like slather it on so you didn't become, you didn't come out looking deep fried. But it was from that perspective. It was never about like, oh, it's going to protect me from aging or wrinkling or something like that. It was more just like tanning.
So that's the immediate thing that you see, the immediate effect of sun exposure as colored skin is tanning. And a lot of us don't like that. But a long-term thing is actually breaking down your collagen. It happens very gradually, if you see the whole kind of change in spectrum, how earlier people used to exercise to lose weight, but now it's to just have fitness. You don't have to be a particular weight or body type to exercise. Everyone is encouraged to exercise. So same way, I think the skincare is now going through that journey that everyone should do skincare, irrespective if you have flawless skin or if you're suffering from a certain condition. How much skincare you should be doing, actually, I ask my patients. So I don't have a set thing. Okay, this is what you do, 10 steps. It may work for me. I may enjoy it. And it may not work for you. So your skincare, the minimal ones, the non-negotiables, I call them, is something I tell people that, okay, this is a must for your lifestyle. But apart from that, everything can be built around it. So your skincare can change. I get bored of using the same face wash. So I keep changing. I have a set of 3-4, and on my mood, I use what? That works for me. Some people have been using the same face wash for 6 years, 7 years, and they find peace in that. And great, if it works for you, you can do that. So it has to be very personal. You need to understand what you want to do and then kind of do things around it. It's not that you have to do this. Nothing is have to. So
and you also do believe, obviously, as a medical professional, that a lot of skincare comes from a lot of your skin ailments come from inside, right? Like it's a lot to do. I mean, we deal with things very topically, but actually a root cause,
stress and whatnot,
anxiety, bad diet, like all of that stuff.
It is a balance. There are so many things which are triggered by internal. So having, like, if I plan something for anyone, I plan with lifestyle. That's the first step. If that's not correct, if you're not having your macros correct, there's no point me adding 10 antioxidants when you're not doing the basic protein intake in a day, for example. And then get it. Skin and hair is the only organ where you can apply things topically and still it absorbs. So no other organ you can take care externally. Your kidneys, livers, nothing you can't take. Everything has to be what you do. But skin, thankfully, whatever we apply also works. So 1/3 and almost half of your skincare has to be topical. And the 50% is definitely a good lifestyle. And there's nothing one thing that you have to do for good skin. I tell people good for health, good for skin. So anything that you know is bad for health is bad for skin.
For your skin. Oh, no. That brings me to my one and only question. Realistically, Puneet, how bad is smoking for my skin?
Okay, so I give you some numbers, which is again, I'm
Is this a question that we really want to ask, Tash?
I have asked it because I've done it. Oh, should we take a break and come back to this? Keep our audience hooked.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep our audience hooked. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
All you smokers out there, coming back for some skincare truth bombs.
We'll be right back.
Hey, everybody. It's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, Ashton is in conversation with Dre Baldwin, CEO of Work On Your Game, Inc. They discuss the athletic mindset and what it takes to be a great athlete. On All Things Policy, Arjun Garge speaks to Atish Padi about fantasy sport platforms and Karnataka's online gambling ban. On the Life Manifesto, Zarina decodes the concept of emotional maturity. I wonder what emotionally mature people really do. On Naan Kari, Sadaf and Archit are joined by author Sudha Menon. They discuss comfort food and Sudha's upcoming book. On Say No to Drama, Chetna cuts through the drama around Instagram posts and comments. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch Kuber, Slay Coffee, Intel, Kotak Mahindra Bank, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So I'm very eager to answer the question because, this is something I have as a conversation to everyone, and I feel I make that 1% difference. In addition to the 1,000 reasons that you already know, smoking causing cancer, worse lung health, general life expectancy goes down. To skin and hair, smokers age much faster. And it's like a proven fact. You'll get fine lines probably a decade earlier. You'll be more prone to pigmentation and you will have more hair loss, just general hair aging, hair thinning. Hair balding will be much earlier in smokers than non-smokers. And the whole principle what smoking does is basically it creates free radicals. And these free radicals are basically excited molecules which have to go and attack something. So they attack and then they get neutralized. But then those attacking things are our own cells. It can be lungs, skin and hair. So these free radicals in general, through smoke or through pollution, etc., are damaging in and out both. So add these 10 reasons to your not smoking list. And if you get closer to it, if you've already been thinking, you'll definitely look a lot better in 10 years if you stop smoking today.
So if I stop smoking today, by the time I'm your age, I'll look really fresh.
For sure. You will benefit from, and there are also, click a little bit of hope, people who stop smoking. Studies have also shown over 5 years, their risk for a lot of things kind of come back to the general population. So it's not that, oh, I've smoked for 20, 30 years. Now what's the point? No, even 5 years of, when you stop smoking, a lot of your health starts to improve. Your body starts to regenerate. And your risk for a lot of these skin issues and other issues also start going down. So never too late to start using a sunscreen. Never too late to stop smoking.
To quit smoking. You know what?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Puneet, if nothing else, these are the two golden things. What about reducing smoking? No, we have to quit. Sorry, this is not a negotiation.
I don't think that we should be negotiating on air with our doctor being like, listen, how much is okay? Okay, so, you talked about this, and I think it's an interesting segue to talk about lifestyle, like the pressure of our lifestyles currently. I'm talking about maybe tier ones, actually everyone, but I'm talking about us young professionals who live very high stress lifestyles where you're kind of 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You are just go constantly. Of course, that affects your diet. Of course, that affects your exercise regime as well. A lot of people are very self-motivated to do it at either end of the day, and that's great. But sometimes it just doesn't happen because your day has, as per usual, you lose control of it. But you have, like our parents. Okay, I'll give you an example. The way that my grandmother and my mother approach skincare is so basic and clean because I don't think that they've ever had quote unquote bad skin, and they didn't do very many things, like maybe an anti-aging cream at night and like a face cream in the day. But other than that, it's very basic. And when they see all my pots and potions and little bathroom shelf, she's just like, this is insane. Like, you're ruining your skin. It's too much. And then you just have to come down to the fact that our lifestyles and the environments that we have grown up in are so different that today I have no choice but to take care of my skin because my skin is constantly telling me what's up. Like, you are stressed this week. You're getting your period this week. You haven't worked out this week. You've eaten too much junk this week. Like, this is where it all starts coming out. And you can see it in your hair and skin, like when your hair falls a bit more and you're like, I don't really know what's happening. So in this kind of situation, how do you assess your patients when you know that maybe it's more environmental factors and it is just something that can deal with a topical cure? Like, yeah, sure, topical is more the remedy, but I'm sure now the approach to skincare from the doctor's side also is so different, right?
So, I think being mindful about everything is the first step. A lot of us go through life without realizing so much has happened. The fact that that you've had a busy week, the fact that that you've missed your exercise and you have that thought in the day that, oh, today I have missed exercise, I think is the first step, that you're more mindful. That that, okay, you've eaten a lot of junk today. That's again being mindful. A lot of people just consume all of that and guilt-free start the same day again tomorrow. So I encourage people to start getting mindful. Okay, that these things are not to be done, and you will have balances, ups and downs in life. As long as you know that you're mindful about it, you will have a corrective measure. Will kind of compensate the next day, or you will know that, okay, as a structure, 80% you're doing okay, 20% here and there is okay. So being mindful is very important. Lifestyle has changed from what it was 30 years ago, because this is a question I get asked every time, that my granny has better skin, better hair than me. But a lot of these chronic lifestyle issues are now kicking in ailments earlier. I'll give you a simple example. Say like diabetes. It used to be something that used to kick in probably at 45, 50, a lot earlier, like much this. But now it's normal to have a 25, 30-year-old who has diabetes. So it's lifestyle, lot of stress, then the food choices that we make, which is playing, and obviously a genetic susceptibility. I'll give you two more examples from my field, like hair loss. So say if you've had male pattern baldness or hair thinning, and it's very typical to have like your grandfather start losing hair in 50s. And then the next generation, your dad generation, has lost the same amount of hair probably in their 40s. And the next one in probably in mid-20s. And now I sometimes see boys at 18, 19 also who come with hair loss. Two factors is one, genetic. The genetic susceptibility is happening earlier and earlier. Second, also our awareness has increased. So as opposed to 20 years ago, people used to see a dermatologist when they have lost 50 to 80% of their hair. But now I see boys on the other spectrum who feel that, oh, they are in that fear that, everyone in my family is bald, I may lose hair. So they are also being very aware of their skin and hair, and therefore seeking help a lot earlier. So it's a combination of both lifestyle plus the general awareness that's bringing people to taking care earlier and earlier.
And do you also attribute a lot of this to the fact that our standards of beauty have completely changed, and not just changed, they've gotten so much higher, more stressful. Like, we've created a lab experiment of what a man and a woman should look like now. And so because we're constantly in the struggle for that, even like younger kids at 18 and like 15, 16, 17 are looking at things being like, oh yeah, eventually I'm going to get my nose fixed, or eventually I'm just going to get a little lift here, and like, like this model, I want to do this. And it's, of course, that's just us struggling to cope with younger people, Tash and I, but we never had these conversations. Like when we were growing up, yeah, you were stressed out about maybe looking cute and hot and all of that stuff, but it was never about dramatically changing who you were, because that was not a conversation that you entertained as such. Now, from your experience, do you see like kids younger and younger opting for more things like cosmetic changes or surgeries or like procedures in that way?
See, definitely that paradigm shift is happening, but it's not yet there. Like, say, in the West, it's extremely commonplace to do a lot of these things. They know, and the whole concept now is that they know that it's safe. They know that it's so easy to do, and they know it works, and it is recommended from the scientific fraternity. So it's just easy to get into that standard. So I think some people are reaching there where they want to take care. But again, if say you had a conversation with me and you had a skin issue, I wouldn't start with what I feel is wrong with your skin. I would always ask you, what are the concerns that bother you? How do you look at yourself? And you'll be surprised. They'll tell me about something which sitting across 3 feet, I feel that I couldn't even notice. And the one which is glaring on my face, okay, this is that issue I want to treat, and they don't see that. So each one of us looks at our skin and we somehow then get focused on that. If I'm insecure about a certain skin or a certain way I look or a certain area of my body, every time I look at myself, that's what I generally focus on. And I don't look at the other things. So sometimes it helps a lot to kind of bring their attention to the better bit of their skins. So also start noticing those things. And when we look at ourselves, we look at ourselves in a 2D always. It's a picture, it's a screen, it's a mirror. We don't see our faces in 3D ever. So someone who's looking at you is not looking at exactly in this profile how you're looking, is looking at you when you're talking, moving, sees the whole face, your jawline and everything, and has a better, clearer perspective of how you are. And we have a very different perspective of how we look ourselves. So we'll focus on more, say, the laugh line. But the laugh line is just a line because it's seen directly when you are facing a camera front face. I think wrong topic to...
Wait, is it this?
Puneet, I'm an actor and a big part of me doesn't care because I'm like, aging is a part of life, and the older you look, the lines tell stories, of the experiences you've had and the laughs you've had, all these lovely things I convince myself. But the truth of the matter is that even in my industry, I feel people are getting very subtle things done to remain tight and young for a long time. And sometimes I also wonder, like, do I need to be getting fillers at some point?
So, I think the answer to that would be we all have a certain set notion about a certain treatment. And we feel, okay, doing this is where I draw the line. But sometimes getting just more information about it, getting to know what if I do, what is the change I see, kind of, because a lot of these thoughts are based on the presumptions that we see, and we see bad examples on screen. Okay, a lip job will look like that. And I'm like, absolutely not. A lip job should be that no one should know that you've had anything done.
Yeah.
And that's what your goal should be. So I call these people line chasers. If you chase a line and you keep filling it till the line is gone, but the entire holistic appearance of the face is also gone. You're overfilled. We call them as duck lips, or you kind of fill in too much, your cheekbones get too high. And then we kind of lose perspective about what, the whole thing is, because you start focusing on small things. And when you do something, you start looking at yourself 10 times more than what you used to. So it is kind of that whole vicious cycle, but it's always best to kind of know what's out there, know about it, discuss about the long-term thing, and then decide, okay, I want to get into it, or okay, this is not for me. So don't come from a space of prejudice, because if science has something which is good and can help us look better in the long run, it's extremely safe, it's affordable, and then why not? So
absolutely.
I am from the other end. I feel that if you have something that you can do about, And if you want to do something about, and if it's safe and this, then you do the thing. Get all your queries settled. How many times you have to do it? What happens if I don't do it? What happens if it goes wrong? So once you've known everything, and that's when you decide what your skincare should be for a decade. So that's what I ask people. Okay, some people come to me just before a wedding. Oh, I have something this weekend, and their goal is very short-sighted. They want to look better for Sunday. So my approach is very good. But if you come to me and just in general that I have no timelines and these are the areas I want to work on, then great. We take small baby steps. Each step that you take in, you're discovering your skin. Okay, this is what I enjoy. Okay, I like this now. Can we do something about this? So go through it as it comes. There is no pressure to reach anywhere. You choose your destination and you have to reach there.
I think that's good advice. And I think a more wholesome way of approaching skincare than this immediacy of I want to look good now or I want to see results.
Or just I need her nose or I need these lips or I just, that is what not freaks you out, because I'll tell you why it freaks me out. I'm being honest, because I think at some level there's a part of even my brain, which I consider to be able to fight the marketing, is that I'm like, but it kind of would look cool if I just had a little bit more here, or like if it was just a little straighter or it was a little narrow. And then I find myself, like, my fear is what you just said, is that I feel like it's a slippery slope for me. Like I might not know when to stop or how to stop or what's enough or what's not. So I guess that's when a good care practitioner comes in and like you have the journey together. It's not just you like injecting yourself like a crazy person.
There's such a big mindset. Sorry, you have a question?
No.
I just have a thing to say. I think there was a big mindset change also, because from the time when we were kids, I remember being told as a child that to focus on inner beauty. Like inner beauty was a thing that was far more celebrated. But
now I don't think Instagram understands that concept.
No, it's because of the social media and the perfection and the value. Even now as adults in this phase of life, for example, now Ayushi and I are in our late 20s. You realize that being an adult, a functional adult in this world is maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10% easier if you're good looking. And
and if you have good skin. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's
basic
so sad.
Good looking starts with good skin, because no matter who you compliment you, sometimes even if the person is like not even the most quintessentially attractive person, you will say, but dude, what good skin.
Glowing skin,
like glowing skin.
Yeah, whatever.
And you automatically attribute beauty to that person, attractiveness to that person because of their skin. So that we get that skin is a huge part of our lives. But I feel like this has entered the conversation very recently. But you had a question, Tash, you had a question.
No, not even really a question, but we focus so much on our facial skincare, Puneet. There's so much obsession about this much. What's the deal with everybody's rest of the skin? Means the skin is your largest organ technically then, no? Because it's covering you from head to toe. What are the other things we need to be doing to take care of the rest of our body's skin, not just our face skin? Because butt skin, I hear, is like face skin also. You get butt acne. Is a thing.
So, which is very true. We focus everything on our face, and let alone body. People don't focus on their necks,
Oh
so
when they're using a product, I know what you do on the face, you have to do on the neck.
Yeah, and your neck in terms of the surface area is as big as the face. So the little bit which is remaining at the end of application, you just can't do this. It's your own neck. It's not someone else's. And
I should just buy 2 pumps instead of 1 pump, Ayushi is chindi, even I am. We try to use less product.
And if I've already worn my shirt and I want to do my neck product, I won't do the neck completely.
Yeah,
your skincare should happen first thing. You wear your skin product, then you start getting ready for the day. And immediately after your shower, your skin has also absorbed a lot of moisture from the shower. And then immediately when you seal that in, that's the best time. So first start focusing on the neck, guys. Neck, front and back both. And that's what you should not neglect. And
only
then
focus on the front.
See, a lot of women who wear their hair down works like a barrier, so sun doesn't kind of hit so much.
I wear my hair up a lot.
So your nape of the neck
finished.
also should be a part of your skincare. And everything that you do on face should go on the front and back of neck. Obviously,
sunscreen
unless you're on
a
absolutely sunscreen.
Are you sure about stupid question now we have had
sunscreen on your neck, like, but now I just put whatever's left on the hand is like, okay, I'll just do this.
That is the big mistake.
Over the years, your neck will reflect that. We age so much faster on the back of our hands and neck. And I've seen so many people who have
Yeah.
amazing facial skin, but then you
But
can
these-
see how the back of the hands are.
The real
Because this
age,
is-
guys, always shows from here.
Yeah, so we are still as a market, we are still not there where we are doing so much body. We are more focused on face right now. But the bare essentials moisturize your skin. If any part of your facial, if any part of your body skin is exposed to the sun because of the wardrobe choices that you do, start
Yeah.
using a body sunscreen. Body sunscreens cannot be the same one that you'd use on the face because face
No,
sunscreen come in chotu tubes, you know. So like typically a face sunscreen tube would be something like this. And if I
Yeah.
have to use it on my hand with the right amount,
It'll
I'll
get over
finish
in one day.
probably 3 applications. And if it's lasting you for a month, you're putting the sunscreen more for your mind than for the skin, like a little bit just for that false pseudo protection that you've sunscreened yourself. Your body
I'm feeling
sunscreen-
so attacked right now.
Your body sunscreens will come in jumbo tubes, bigger tubes, so that you can just spray it on, and it is economical for you to use. They are water resistant. Face sunscreens would be more gel based, matte
Yeah.
finish. Body sunscreens would be more sweat resistant, more easy to apply. So body sunscreening exposed areas is a great idea. With this whole COVID last 2 years, we've been overdoing washing, sanitizing, and kind of
Yeah.
stripping out the oil from our hands again and again.
For
So start
sure.
moisturizing your hands at least a couple of times a day. The biggest resistance there is, most good hand creams are really nice and nourishing. But when you put something so nourishing, it does leave kind of those oily fingerprints when you use your phone.
Yeah.
And we can't stop using our phone. The minute you've applied, you want to touch your phone. So probably use products which are not as nourishing. Those nourishing ones go at bedtime. Lighter, non-sticky feel moisturizers for the hand through the day. And especially if you sanitize a lot, start using, focus around your nails, take half a second
Yeah.
extra to kind of rub that moisturizer into your nail cuticles. That goes same for the feet as well.
One
So
more
that
thing
basic-
to worry about.
yes.
Great.
Matlab, in this big raita of adulthood that's already fell out.
Now you've thrown one more thing inside.
Skincare is a lot of self-love. Everyone is talking about self-love.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
No,
self-care.
I agree.
It
I
is
agree.
therapeutic. If you take that
Yeah.
1 minute out
Yeah.
for yourself, where you're doing it for yourself, you will reach a point where you'll actually like doing it. Now,
Of
I know
course.
so many
I
people
love
over
it.
years, friends and family, who used to not do anything. But now if they step out without using a particular sunscreen or without doing the skincare, they feel that, oh, I've missed something. So when you do it frequently, that's when you kind of know it's working for you and you start enjoying it. And you should do as much as what you feel is correct at that point of time. So there is no rule that you have to be using so many things. Start with the bare essentials, start with the moisturizer, then step onto a sunscreen. Then if all that is happening, you want something more, you can start using an AHA, BHA as night, glycolic acid moisturizer for your body exfoliation. So step up the ladder when you are comfortable, when you want to get there. There is no hurry.
My mom, for example, rubs papaya on her face every day. This is her morning routine. Genetically or whatever, she has great skin, touch wood, she's almost 60. So then there's also that thing of like putting malai on your face or haldi, besan, all of whatever these.
So many hair packs and hair masks, like things that you're
Yes.
supposed to put in your hair, then what you can put on your skin to get rid of a tan. Even things like not just home remedies, but Ayurvedic remedies like
Absolutely,
uptans,
more natural, holistic.
natural muds, things that have been passed on from generation to generation. And even the stuff that you get properly at very holistic, qualified Ayurvedic stores. Like this is something that is for dry skin. This is something that is for XYZ, right? So what would your take be on that, considering you come from a more allopathic background and science-based
Actually,
thing?
I'm completely a man of science. If you show me enough evidence, enough literature about certain things, I'm absolutely open to it. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I'm not a big fan of DIYs at home that you can do. Food is to be eaten, not to be applied. So again, a lot of these applications may give you temporary improvement, but we should know that there are certain natural food items which may actually irritate the skin. Using too much lemon on the skin has known to burn the skin. You create sensitive skin. Too much of neem, too much of urad dal paste when you're scrubbing your skin, scrubbing. Coffee powder, the coarsely ground when you're scrubbing. Again, these are very harsh molecules. The gentler ones, probably like rose water, honey, aloe vera gel. These you can kind of, they are more forgiving in nature. But in terms of the improvement, now I'll give you a simple example. Now, fruits have fruit acids, malic acid, citric acid, glycolic acid, etc. Dahi has lactic acid. But the active ingredient available in these natural products is at such small functional values that even if you do it day after day, there is no cumulative great benefit that you will see. So having done it for a month, you won't see any big change. But if the same thing can be extracted out, or I know that, okay, the lactic acid in dahi is what actually makes the skin exfoliate and better. And if I have a laboratory made lactic acid, which is at 6% at a particular pH, which has been tested for sensitive skin, then I'm like, then guys, why not this? Why this? When there is technology available today, we are taking use of technology in everything, in the way we are learning things, in our screens, and everything, automation, etc., is technology forward.
Absolutely.
Then why not your skincare? Having said that, if you do enjoy some skincare which is home based, then again, it's all about that. If like Multani Matti is known to absorb oil, so if you have oily skin and if you do that, it's great. However, don't expect Multani Matti to get rid of your acne. So a lot of times we feel that orange peel se ye ho jayega, Multani Matti se wo ho jayega, and very severe problems you want to deal with these home remedies. No, if you already have great skin, you want to do self-care and maintenance, these are okay for you. The other thing about a lot of these high-end Ayurvedic products, the general notion that the Janta has is that these products are purely herbal.
Yeah,
but when you read the listing, a certain shampoo which is from an Ayurvedic brand, if it has the same amount of surfactants, but a little bit of certain aloe vera added to it, it doesn't make it automatically superior to another product. So we call this as greenwashing. That you have a product, but you greenwash it so many times, like you kind of bombard people with messages, okay, this has plant-based, and everything, that people don't look at the other ingredients that are there in the product. So,
now, because of what you're saying, a lot of these paraben, sulfate-free, plant-based, vegan brands,
no nasties.
A lot of these homegrown brands have emerged. I've tried a few, but purely from a medical point of view, what are your thoughts on these new brands which are nasty free?
And like you said earlier in the show, every day there's a new product out in India. And because the market is so large, people are just producing and making, and there's a market for everything. Everybody's buying something. So how do you feel about that? Are we being a little bit led astray, or is that...
a lot of this you have to take with a pinch of salt. Who told us paraben is nasty is someone who made a paraben-free product. Who told us sulfate is bad is someone who made a sulfate-free shampoo. So there is a line to truth. For example, sulfate, for example, it's so much spoken about. And I keep talking about this to all my patients. If you have virgin hair, you've never messed with your hair. Someone like me, I just use a hairdryer once in a while. I have not done any chemical straightening. I can absolutely use any over-the-counter shampoo which has sulfate. It's not going to damage my hair. On the other hand, if someone has heavily processed hair, you've been through keratin, cystine, QODs every 6 months of your life, and your profession demands where you have to curl or heat your hair very frequently, and your hair has become damaged or porous because of that, then definitely a sulfate-free shampoo is for you. It doesn't make it a superior shampoo for everyone else to use. Sulfate is also there in a toothpaste that we use. When it's safe to be put in the mouth, why is it bad for the hair? So it's bad for a certain set of people, but marketing makes us believe that it's bad for everyone in general.
Yeah, that you should be only choosing products that don't have XYZ in them. And if you do, then you're damaging your hair. And then you're like, but for the last 15 years, I've been using this and it's been fine.
Exactly. Paraben, for example, paraben is spoken about. A lot of skincare brands are not going away from paraben. But some of the most established brands, which have been heavily tested, have been in the market for 30 years, have been used for kids, have been so safe. And there is so much of data saying that it is actually okay. So I'm okay if you choose a product which is paraben-free, sulfate-free, but you have to evaluate the product as a whole. The product is not superior just because it doesn't have these 3-4 things. Is the product tested? Is the product well-researched? Has it been around for a long period of time? So all of those are the more important questions than just these, because these are just marketing and labeling gimmicks, I feel sometimes.
I mean, I agree with you actually that I just have one last kind of question that I would want to get not answer on, but your comments on. And this is very personal. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Ritasha, but I think she feels the same way. Is that both of us have always been and are on the duskier side of the skin color spectrum. We've never been like, what? We're not fair. That's it. That's a statement right there.
We're not fair.
We're not fair. Also, both of us have a relatively active lifestyle. She moves around a lot, even though I have a desk job, but I travel a lot for work. So we are out and about in the sun. I think out of 365 days in the year, 200 of them I am tan. Like I have some color on me because I've been exposed to the sun. Yeah, you use sunscreen and all. I'm not talking about the product part of this. I'm just talking about the fact that we grew up in a generation where people were obsessed with being fair. We grew up with the only messaging of Fair and Lovely, Fair and Handsome, whatever you want to call it, Garnier Light. I'm not to name brands, sorry, but in terms of like
lightening products.
Skin lightening products was the only skincare you ever saw. Actually, to be frank, Tash, we grew up on just skin lightening as the only treatment for your skin that you should be doing.
Yeah.
I hope today that's not the way we approach skincare, that it's about stripping. I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, it's just melanin. It's how much you have and how much you don't have. That's all that it comes down to. So do you see a change? I hope you see a change in your younger clients who aren't asked. Or is it still that we are obsessed as a country with being fair? Because it breaks my heart that even today in 2021, you have massive celebrities endorsing products that are lying, first of all. It doesn't work. And you don't need it. Like, this is not the product that you need. Like, go for sunscreen, promote sunscreen. That's what we actually need. But it bothers me. And is that something that kids come in with you today? Like when you're younger clients, is that still something that people get stressed out
No,
about?
I don't think so. At least the population I see, I think over the last 10 years, I can say I don't really remember more than a handful of people asking me that, okay, we want our daughters or our sons to be fairer, or I want to be fairer. That word is something I have actually not seen in my clinic so much. It may be an intrinsic wish, but it's not something which is voiced out. But I do feel that as skin of color, we pigment easily. So while we should not be chasing a lighter skin tone, we should be chasing an even skin tone.
Yeah.
And a lot of our aging happens in terms of pigmentation. I'll give you a simple example. Most Caucasian and Americans, by the time they're 30, they'll have crow's feet, they'll have fine lines around their mouth. Because we are colored, that light doesn't penetrate the skin so deep to cause so much damage that early in time. But because the light is blocked on the surface, it does increase melanin production. And then it becomes uneven. You have a little dark shade around the mouth, around the temple area, and then the other areas are lighter. When you try to conceal it with the product, then the lighter product kind of looks messy on the entire face. You have to use a corrector in certain darker areas. So that even skin tone is what is most desired, whatever skin tone you are in.
Agreed.
Using a sunscreen will help prevent damage, but most of us underuse it. So a lot of quantities, what you need to use, reapply sunscreen, and have a little basic care at night to kind of detan or kind of take care of damage at the end of the day. Yes.
Like the sunscreen thing, reapplication, for example, practically, how does it work? You're on the move, you're running around, say you're on shoot, for example, for me, makeup has been put. How do I reapply sunscreen when there's makeup on my face? Or if I don't have a job which will allow me to go and shower, just wash my face.
But even in office, in the afternoon, I'm supposed to go and re-wash my face and then put sunscreen again.
Sunscreen.
I mean, in the middle of the day, I'm standing. Is that the expectation?
No, so obviously, if you have makeup on, makeup itself is a good sunscreen thing. So when you put base sunscreen and you put a tinted product, the fact that it is tinted will also prevent any kind of physical light to penetrate into the skin. So if you have a thick layer of makeup on, you're okay. You don't probably need to reapply makeup. You know how cricketers use that zinc oxide thing?
Yeah.
That
white one. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't reapply it because it's a physical block. It prevents the light from going into the skin. So a lot of your makeup products will have an iron salt or an titanium dioxide or an iron oxide, which are sunscreens at the end of the day. And as long as you've not wiped it off, the sunscreen effect is still there. Okay. If you are primarily indoors, take that 1 minute out after lunch. And if you don't have too much makeup on, if you feel that you can just rinse off,
during the day.
You can just take a minute to use a wipe, or you just wash your face. It refreshes you, because if your morning skin routine happens at 8 a.m. and your night happens at 10 p.m., it's just a very long day.
Of course.
So it's just good post-lunch to take half a minute to wash your face. You feel fresh, and keep 1 or 2 simple products at your workspace, which could be like a day cream, which has moisturizer and sunscreen, just to feel better. And on the days when it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But on the days when it happens, it does get into your regime well.
Fine.
Okay, I'm going to try.
Yeah, okay. I'll keep a small sunscreen moisturizer at work now. This is going to be one more product that I'm going to order. Great.
Also, can you just put
sure
sunscreen
you
without
have
moisturizer?
You know, anything that you put on your skin is a moisturizer. A moisturizer.
So it's fine, nah?
Yeah, any cream is a
Many
moisturizer.
Days I just walk out
hydrates.
with only sunscreen. I'm like, I don't have brain space.
Because in the summer, I can't do both. I don't want anything on my skin. I want my skin to be like
both. You're kind of, because I feel so many people saturate their skins with a serum and blah blah blah, and then they put itna sa sunscreen like garnish. It doesn't work that way.
Like
Your
pudina,
sunscreen, yeah,
dhania.
exactly. Your sunscreen has to
Gwyneth.
be the main course. It has to be a nice thick layer that you do.
You're right.
And if it means
you're
that's
right.
the only thing that you need to apply, pick a sunscreen that you love using. So if you've still not found the product that you like using, you should look forward to looking at sunscreen and not have
I
that
do.
whole emotion. It will
That's
be
all I
sticky
look
and it will
forward
be
to.
greasy all day long. So you need to still find the product that you kind of,
This
but it has to be effective at the same time. It cannot be a sunscreen
will-
which is so light and so this that it doesn't have active ingredients in it.
This is like
No.
Gwyneth Paltrow when she did that Vogue beauty thing, and then she just tapped the sun. She's saying, "Where the sun hits my face," and the internet lost their shit. The internet went
Is she
insane.
okay?
No, the
I
internet
remember that. Yeah.
went insane. Every single doormat made an Instagram account, even if they didn't have one, to be like, "She's wrong. Don't do
Gwyneth,
this."
Gwyneth pagla gayi hai.
But no, I'm glad to hear that that's kind of changing a little bit. And it's more about healthy skin as opposed to a skin color, because that was
Yeah.
something that I'm not kidding. It made me feel bad as a kid to grow up around messaging that is so negative towards what you look like.
Yeah,
And-
because unless it's fair, your skin is
You're not
dirty.
beauty-
quote
yeah, and
unquote.
you're
Do
not
you
good
think a
looking.
lot of this comes from the household, from members in the family who comment? And in general, I feel that talking about someone's skin is so commonplace. You go to a party.
Yeah.
And I was
Hello.
recently out with a bunch of friends, and it was so casual, and we are all like the best of friends. But one of the friends spoke about someone else's skin in such a casual, thinking, caring manner that, oh, you have so many XYZ on your face. She knows, I know, you know, but it's not
Why
something
to
that has
point
to
it
be
out?
vocalized. Yeah, everyone knows
At
that.
a social gathering, upar se come on.
And
Yeah.
see, so I think it's the lack of awareness.
Yeah.
And a very big, when people come to me with issues they've had for 15 years, I generally want to know what is bothering them today. You've had this problem for 15 years, you've come to me today. So I'm very curious before I get into anything to know what is your trigger
Yeah.
point to see me. What's the trigger that you've called and never seen a dermat and you suddenly want to see me today?
But that's
and
so true.
Yeah. And the trigger point generally is someone else talking
People,
about something.
yeah.
And that's more so this, so at my clinic, for example, I keep these sessions with my staff. What are good things to talk about? What are bad things to talk about? Because no one taught us these in childhood, that you can't comment on X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
However good willing or how good intentioned you are, you cannot do that. It can be a part of a one-to-one personal conversation with a soulmate, but not with people in general. So a lot of skin, all of this fairness thing, or there's a skin issue called vitiligo, those white patches. It's purely a cosmetic thing, does nothing medically, but such a big taboo around it, from the lowest social economic strata to the highest social economic strata, where they have all access to education and they know and everything, but still the whole taboo stays because that's the way that they've seen around their houses. And I think that whole talking about it has to change in families about skincare, getting kind of accepting a few things about skin early age, but not neglecting things which should be treated. Like, for example, acne. I'm a very strong believer. If you get stubborn, rigid acne, which is leaving scars, please treat them at a young age so that you don't have disfiguring scars all your life. But other things which are intrinsic, which can't be changed, should be encouraged, should be a part of your healthy skincare conversations at home.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think even in my house, it was different because my dad's also on the duskier side, and he never made us feel that way at home. But it was more about the social messaging around you and the fact that for the longest time in India, the word fair has been associated with beautiful. Like that she's so fair, and that automatically means you're an attractive person. It's like nothing else, but you're fair. So, but it's changing. I'm glad. This has been my favorite morning discussion. We spent an hour talking about skin. I love it.
So I want to kind of tell you something interesting. So I'll tell you, like, if future trends, what do I see happening? Because this is about from your journey from adolescent to adulthood. So what is it that people can see in the next, say, 5 or 6 years? Last 2-3 years have been about knowing ingredients. So people used to not bother about what they're putting on their faces. Suddenly people know about everything. They see there's so much of information overload happening.
Hyaluronic acid. Everyone's just
niacinamide, exactly. These have been available for years and years. And they have been in some of your basic skincare products that were available 30 years ago also. But no one spoke about the ingredient. Doesn't mean that it's something novel right now. So people associate with these ingredients because then these ingredients are linked to efficacy. But the problem that is happening right now is that there are so many good ingredients and you can't put 10 in the morning, 10 at night. Most of these products are single ingredient based products, and that ingredient may not be sufficient. You may be tempted to put another 5 things because, okay, retinol is great, glycolic acid is good, niacinamide is good. Where will I put in my hyaluronic acid? Where can I put in this? Where can I put a peptide serum? So there's no end to it. So how many products can you do? So that whole jargon is now kind of translating into a minimalistic skincare drive, which is happening. The other drive that will happen simultaneously is a more eco-friendly thing. Packaging has to get, it like really burns my heart at the end of thing where I have to dispose of a container. Plastic sunscreen tubes and things, these will change. These will start getting, probably I'm hoping we'll get refills soon. We'll have a place to dump our skincare products soon. Bigger, more conscious brands are doing that. The next change which is going to happen is when you realize that, okay, a retinol can do only as much, a tretinoin can do only as much. And now if you want more efficacy, that's when people will start educating themselves about skincare treatments. There are so many things that we do in a clinic, like a Q-switch laser, a fractional resurfacing laser, PRP, derma roller, microneedling, that you will realize that, okay, the product sits on the skin, but some of these treatments go into the skin, and that's where the magic needs to happen. So you'll kind of realize that, okay, this is what I can achieve with this. And instead of doing DIYs and instead of doing XYZ salon pampering facial, why not do something which is scientifically designed and gives me a more long-term cure to what I'm looking for? That's the next big trend, which has already happened in the West. So what's going to happen is that people will start looking at skincare more holistically. Good lifestyle, great skincare product, have fun with your skincare, jade rollers and gua shas, all of that, but it's only for fun. And then when it turns to efficacy, then you get into more dedicated scientific treatment. They will become more commonplace, which already have become. The other change is men are more accepting about skincare in general.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, but that's big.
So many.
Everyone needs to do skincare.
And I have data in my clinic. 10 years ago, when I started my private clinic, I have data from that time, which shows that I had probably 50% men. But now it's almost 50% and some months 55% men who come into new patients as. And earlier men who used to come in mainly for hair loss. So amongst those 30%, 80% were men who came for balding and not for skincare. And even at the end of the whole consultation on hair care, if I ask them, do you want to know anything about skin? No, doc, I'm good there. They wouldn't want any advice on skincare. But now I see men who come for skincare and want to know about hair care and want to know about body care. So that whole thing is now kind of not gender specific, which also I am very happy to see. That skincare is for both genders. Boys, young boys don't look at skincare as it's something I should shy away from. If I'm putting a face cream, it's something I should not be doing. So all of this was also relevant a couple of years ago. That no, this is not for me. I'm a boy. And this was very commonplace. It's okay to be the way I am. So, and if you get into that basic routine, it's great. So these are the changes which are happening and will happen in the next 1 decade as we grow up.
I'm happy about that. I see that even with my brother, like the fact that I have pushed him into like, you need to have a day cream and at least a night cream. I was like, start there. And just seeing him now buy products for himself, when he comes back, I look at his toilet kit, I'm like, so proud.
You've done your job and he's reached out.
I was like, I did my job as a sister.
No, that's good. That's heartening to see. That whole evolution is happening.
All right. Yeah. Before we wrap, we just wanted to get, our producer wanted us to ask you also, if you were to, without mentioning any brand names or anything, just a basic skincare routine for an average, say, person living, working professional in Bombay city, suppose.
So assuming that you have a desk job, you have some travel time to work and you're spending most time in front of a screen and in an air-conditioned environment and you are on a budget. Okay, so assuming all of these things, I would say have 2 sets of face washes. One something which does not foam and one which is a little bit foamy. So on the days when you feel that your skin is already very dry, you use your non-foamy wash. And on the days when you feel at the end of the day, you want a little bit extra cleansing without stripping off all the oil, you use a product which lathers a little bit more. So 2 sets of face washes. Your morning, I think most of us will do for most seasons with just one sunscreen, which is matte finish and not too greasy, which you can apply at least 3 or 4 pea sizes on the entire face without feeling greasy about it. Sticky. At least SPF 30 is what you should be looking at. And one of the things that you could read about is non-comedogenic. Non-comedogenic means it won't clog your pores. The product will not break you out. So 2 face washes, 1 basic sunscreen, which has moisturizer in it, even if it doesn't say on the bottle. And at night when you wash your skin, as basic as putting a light moisturizer is great. If you're above 25 and you want to do some basic skincare, then and you don't have any glaring skin issues, then probably a general vitamin cocktail which has vitamin C, niacinamide, and most of these fancy products available will have something like that. At night would be a good product to do. And if you are very dry,
that goes before the moisturizer, right? Like
actually, if you want to keep just one product, so okay, now the whole reasons serums were introduced is serums can deliver an ingredient without adding a layer. So most of these serums which are water based, they just have this much percentage of some ingredient, but they don't add anything to the skin. So they have to be layered. So if you don't want to layer anything, you can probably pick up a cream which has those active ingredients and you're sorted. You have a moisturizing cream which has vitamin C or niacinamide or retinol for that matter, and you are sorted. Don't use prescription strength products like tretinoin without guidance, because it's like, I went to the gym and I did a 100 kg squat without knowing how to do it. You may damage things here and there. So don't use any prescription products just because it worked for a blogger or it worked for your friend. You have to respect that it's a prescription product and has to be done in a certain particular manner. And don't use any creams like steroids and hydroquinone unsupervised. That's also a very popular trend. There are these products available which give you magical results because they have hydroquinone, which is a lightening agent, and steroid, which just makes everything so good. And it's very easy to get addicted to these creams. So don't use any prescription pharmacy-based products, how much ever great results it delivers.
Amazing. Thank you for these very important tips. We didn't even have to ask you and you have just come through. Puneet, you have been a wonderful guest and I'm so glad we got to spend this morning with you.
Really just made us feel so much better about a lot of things that we do/don't do. And like
some we do, some we don't do, some we have to quit, some we have to improve on.
We'll talk about that. We'll circle back to that later. But thank you, Puneet. This was really great. And if our listeners want to find you, your clinic, or just get in touch with you, how and where should they do that?
Probably you can just go on Instagram and look at Dr. Puneet Saraogi handle or everything skin hair. Or probably if you can leave a link to the website, that would be great. In your
they'll tag your Instagram handles and stuff like that. So that should be fine.
Yeah, that should be.
And I'm going to be booking an appointment to see you.
I had a fun morning. I think I'm very passionate about talking and a lot of these things take more time to be discussed. So I think the conversation we had is more abstract. If someone has to do one or two things out of it, so just summarizing that, simplify your skincare, do your sunscreens regularly, do some body care. And yeah, that's about it.
We will have another skincare episode.
We will definitely, because it's so Now we have to get into the proper zones. Like, so this one, we can do an online consultation. I think that should be a really humbling experience for us, Tash. But thank you again. And if you want to find Tash and myself, you know where to find us. But the best place to find us is to actually write in and tell us all your thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
Write to aglastationadulthood@gmail.com. And if you like this podcast, you can find similar variety of podcasts on any of the IVM platforms, networks, handles, and wherever else you find your podcast. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We hope that this has been informative. And even if it hasn't, I enjoyed myself today.
Exactly.
So this was for me. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Habits? Routines? How exactly do they help us get better? Well, to simplify it for you, tune in to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor and I'm going to be here to help you get better daily with some simple, easy to do habits that you can easily adapt to your life. So tune in to the Habit Coach podcast from Monday to Friday because I believe that awesome lives start with awesome habits.
पेश खिदमत है आपकी शान में हमारे अंजुमन से. Hi, I am Sadaf.
And I'm Arshit. खाने का इतिहास, economics, policy, psychology, सब है मेन्यू पे.
Only on the Nankali podcast every Wednesday. सिर्फ IVM podcast ऐप या वेबसाइट पर या फिर जहां से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो.